Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are live from Little Beer Fest in Duluth, Georgia today. This is one of our favorite festivals of the year. Small beers, Brian.
Little beers.
Little bitty beers, low ABV. To show Brian how unintelligent I am, I was getting amazed at all the breweries that had Pilsners and lagers and that, and then it struck me that we were at Little Beer Fest.
Yeah, Little Beer 4, in fact.
Little Beer 4, yeah. So I am Tim Dennis. Brian Hewitt's with us, my co-host. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Tim.
Good. Yeah. Producer extraordinaire, No Mike Nate again this week.
Yeah, back to No Mike.
But we also have Jason Glunt with us from Salud Cerveceria. He's trying to get a beer refill right now, so I picked a great time to talk to him. Jason, how are you, man?
Doing well. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We love trying all the beers that come here. We've got some good stuff. We are right next to Halfway Crooks.
Oh, I know.
Which is one of my favorites. So, and you know what? I've got a glass full of water that I'm going to dump out, and then Nate's going to get me a pour there. But, yeah, we're going to talk about little beers. We're going to talk about Salud Cerveceria, Charlotte beer scene, all diners, drive-ins, and dives. Jason, I think, is on our topic of discussion today. So.
Guy Fieri, maybe.
Will
he be here today, too?
Is this Flavor Town?
It is. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Duluth is, in fact, Flavor Town.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we're going to start off something interesting. Every now and then we pick something from Beer Twitter and chat about it. And Brian, something that was a hot topic this week was talking about what the perfect tap list is. And from Kimberly Clements, who is Casey Beer Chick on Twitter, she said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but no bar needs 30 taps these days. Only 6 to 8 of them make you any money anyway. Love the most, you're welcome. So that started a discussion from Jeff Allworth and several people got involved of what is the perfect tap list. And you know what, Jason, since you're a brewer, a bottle shop owner, a restaurateur, all kinds of things, what do you think makes the perfect tap list?
I agree. I think, we're at 14 taps downstairs. 16 taps downstairs. I don't want to do more than that. I think that's right. 12 to 16 is kind of the sweet spot. I remember, we opened into the bottle shop beer bar. We opened in Salud Beer Shop. We opened in 2012. Literally a different time in beer, almost like a different world. When, all these bars locally had 100 taps, 150 taps, and people were so curious about craft beer back then that I felt like, that serves a purpose. But now I feel it's kind of like gimmicky now. At this point, everybody's craft beer is so ubiquitous in the culture of beer drinkers that it's like you got to know a lot. You just the breweries you like, the styles you like, and you want to drink those.
Yeah, well, I moved to Atlanta from Arkansas, and we have a place over there. It's not just Arkansas, I think, Texas for that region, but Flying Saucer.
Oh, yeah, we have in Charlotte.
Okay, so Flying Saucer, our version of Flying Saucer here in the Atlanta metro is Taco Mac.
Yeah. We used to have that in Charlotte, too. They're all gone, but they used to be in Charlotte, too.
Yeah, and you talked about, I'm going to go way back, 25 years ago, Taco Mac was the place to go.
Indeed.
And, they'd have a whole wall of taps, probably, 50, maybe 100 at some locations, and then 100, 300 more bottles and cans in that. Now, here's the problem. If you've got that many, there's some that aren't moving. Definitely.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And there's popular ones. There was definitely times I went to Taco Mac where you'd have to go through 3 or 4 beers that you wanted before that one kicked, that one kicked, that one kicked. And it is a different time because I'll admit back then I thought that was awesome. And Taco Mac was a great place in Atlanta to discover craft beer.
Absolutely was. And back in those days when we're talking like early 2000s, before Untapped was a thing, I had a list that was a paper copy that was maintained at one location, and I was actually exploring beers I had never had before. I didn't know, La Fin du Monde. I'm like, what's that? I should try that. I've never had that before. So I looked at the tap wall. There was nothing but possibility and opportunity. Now I'm older and jaded. And I've had all these, and I have opinions about a lot of them. So that no longer serves me well. But I think somebody who might still just be finding beer and craft beer right now.
Go to Taco Mac.
Yeah.
It's not actually a bad thing, but for a seasoned drinkers, typically a lot of the people listening to the show, I think the 50 tap thing is It's done.
But that said, Brian, even going to a brewery, like you said, you're 14 taps now. Is that right?
So downstairs in the beer shop, we have 16. Upstairs, we have 14. One is we dedicate to Prosecco and for like mimosas.
Yeah.
And one is we do full service coffee as well. So one's a nitro cold brew. So upstairs, 12 beer taps for our brewery. We're on a 7-barrel system. We only do like 600 barrels a year. We literally can barely keep up, and we don't distribute any beer outside of our tap. We can't do anymore, and we don't really want to. That's a sweet spot, perfect spot for us. We do a lot of lagers now, a lot more than we did years past. We keep pumping them out. We love them. Our house Mexican lager Del Patio, we do 5 different versions of it. We do a Michelada version, a lime version. We do a strong 8% version. We have an amber. We also have a dark Mexican lager, Italian Pils, Helles, German Pils, Czech Pils that we rotate. So
it's the beer family, Brian.
It is a beer family.
We were just talking about families. Like you got your Del Patio family. Sweetwater just announced 420, some new extensions to that. But
and it's funny because we've done 2 collabs that are kind of forever collabs that we've done with other breweries that they just keep doing. One is with our brewer came from Newgrass, which is a small brewery in Shelby, North Carolina. They do a lot of good sours and lagers. We did a peanut butter and jelly summer camp series. So that started as a grape peanut butter jelly. Then a strawberry came out. Then a white grape. So now we have 3 of those. With Casita Brewing in Wilson, North Carolina, they're actually here as well. We did a Fiesta, which is based off the Mexican Ashtray. So we would sell Del Patio cans at Salud with lime, tahini, black pepper, and hot sauce. And you don't open the can. You fill up it all up. Then you open the can and it falls in.
Okay.
So we made a Fiesta beer based off the Mexican Ashtray. He's now made a regular, a spicy, a watermelon, and like a dark, like a Negro Modelo style. So he's made 4 beers. We had 7 beers off, just 2 different types.
People get very divided on stuff like Micheladas and red beers we were talking about earlier, which is a thing in the Midwest, which is just your macro lager and tomato juice in that. But you sound like you're embracing it in all its wonderful forms.
It's great for us. I mean, we're kind of I found a 4-pack that we could bring. We had on the list here. We were bringing the Michelada cans, but we sold out and had to bring the regular. But that's what you do. You like Michelada or you don't, right?
Right.
And if you don't, you order the regular Del Patio or the lime. You just got to give people, you give them a base beer they love and give them some options on it. I think that's where we're at now in beer. Everything moves in a 10-year cycle. And beers in that part of their 10-year cycle, it will come back around to kind of the height of it when people were getting so excited about every style. But now, almost every brewery owner I talk to, we're all drinking lagers, and you want to brew what you drink. I'm turning 42. When I opened Salud, I was 30. I could drink 3 marshmallow fruited 800 calorie can sours, but I can't do that anymore. Or do I want to? And the problem with that is, and I understand why they're so expensive. We do a Berliner series. My wife's name is Darylyn, so we call it Daryliner Weiss instead of Berliner Weiss.
Yes.
So we still do that, but we do like one at a time and nowhere near as much as we used to, just to have it, because some people do want that because we don't have liquor.
Well, I still love. Brian just the other night had a chocolate chip cookie stout from Weldworth.
Yes. We've had that's a great beer.
Beer. And I love those. But you know what? Like these little tasting glasses we've got here, that's usually enough for me now.
Exactly.
We sit down with it now. We're fortunate. I'm going to throw this out there. He did have a few cans of his Michelada beer, and he was nice enough to bring one here and let us try it. And it's great.
Yes.
It's fantastic. Very bright, refreshing, excellent flavor. But that's a beer that I could sit down if I want to sit down with my buddies and I want to have 4 or 5 beers or so. I can do that.
And we got lucky with that series too, because in a way this was by accident. We were nervous. We're like, all right, it might come out red. It might freak people out. But people that know. And we sell so many Micheladas already before at Salud and Ashtrays from regular Del Patio. So regular Del Patio is the base. Those became so popular that we decided to can it, our own version. So that's what helped that. It wasn't like we just came up with it because nobody was asking for it.
Right.
It was like you create that culture at your place. Like when you go to Salud, all right, I can get a Michelada here, I can get a Mexican Ashtray here. So we built off that, then created the Michelada. It's kind of tough just to start off with that.
I want to come up to Charlotte just to try Mexican Ashtray.
I do too.
That
kind of sounds like a dressed ham.
It is. So
dressed ham.
So we made T-shirts.
Okay.
My wife's, I'll bring her over. She's actually pouring right now. She has a T-shirt on. and it has like the black pepper, the hot sauce, the tahini.
We may have seen that earlier.
Yeah.
I think she poured our beer for us.
Cool.
Maybe.
And
I think
yeah.
she was turned away because she was taping stuff down because
Yeah.
it's quite windy
Yeah.
as per
Yeah.
tradition. But let me tell you why that beer is perfect. The only problem I ever have with the Michelada is the sediment. Like when you're drinking it,
Yeah.
it surprises you and you're not quite ready for it sometimes. This thing is so clear. It drank so easy and it nailed all the flavor. I'm like, this is perfect. I want this version of a Michelada every time. I do. The red color is a nice touch when you get it, but it being clear and doesn't bother me at all.
Didn't bother me.
And
No.
it also means it's not going to stain my shirt when I invariably dribble some
Yeah,
on
yeah.
myself. So
That's
why it's perfect.
When we first brewed it, we didn't know. We were like, 'cause we make the mix ourselves. It has 9 ingredients, and then when we brewed it, it all dropped out, and everything it came out. We were like, oh, it's clear, man. I can't believe
Yeah.
it. And and I kind of like that because it when people look at it like this ain't a Michelada, and then they drink it, they're like, oh, it is.
It is.
when you poured it, I was like, this is going to be a hint of Michelada. It's going to be subtle.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm ready for
Yeah.
that. And
But it
then,
is
like,
light.
boom.
I mean, it's not overpowering.
Yeah,
You-
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've talked about a lot with beers, whether it's a fruit beer or what have you. I want to taste my beer. Like, I want to know what beer I'm drinking too,
Yeah.
and have that there as a compliment. But-
And the a lot of the American palate's still coming around to certain textures. So, and I think we're getting there, but there's some people that just freaks them out, with the texture, like sediment, like you said, it freaks some people out. It doesn't bother me, but I was super, super happy. We were like, oh, this is amazing. That's clear because it's going to like mess with people a little bit. And that's kind of, it makes it fun, like a story you can tell behind it.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how you brew, what'd you say, 600-800 barrels
Yeah.
about, and you don't go out of that. I really think, sounds like you were kind of ahead of the curve there in what the sweet spot for beer right now, because we have moved away from the distribution model. That's not where the keys to success are right now.
No, it's tough. Again, it's in that cycle, and I mean, you take our beer bar bottle shop downstairs. We opened, we just had beer. Now we sell a bunch of natural wine. We're going to add liquor, eventually. We're working on that now. And a lot of, 2 taps are going to be dedicated to, we're going to make draft cocktails, like batch draft cocktails. And that's what a lot of people are doing now. So say if you have excess taps, pre-batch a margarita, a Paloma, and the margin is triple than a beer. If you're not brewing it, if you're just if you're a retail or a bar that buys a keg, a sixtel. So people are finding ways to use their taps.
You may have answered my question then. I guess tequila or mezcal or something like that's going to be something you end up making at some point if you're putting margaritas on.
No, we won't go there. We're pretty small, man. That'd be too much for us to take on. And I'm a huge mezcal tequila fan, so I don't want to mess up that with the amazing ones we sell. Yeah.
And see, now remember in North Carolina, you're thinking you've got Georgia beer law in your mind, Brian, where our breweries
we can't.
They have to distill if they want to offer this.
Oh no, we can't. Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah,
no,
I just assumed you would be distilling.
No,
okay,
no.
Yeah,
That's not
you're
a
right.
thing.
You're right. Yeah.
So, but it is funny. I do notice, the way beer is going, it is that our plan was never to be big. We want to stay small and be flexible. And, we offer food, we offer coffee, we have breakfast on the weekends, we have wine. Those are ways to insulate yourself from the ebbs and flows of the industry. And obviously beer's not going anywhere. It's just what people are drinking. You take, for example, we used to do a sour fest. I think we started in 2013. We opened in 2012. We started a sour festival called Release the Funk. There's a theater next to us. 2013 to 2018 we did it. And, Lauren Salazar came to the second one from New Belgium. She hosted it, and it was amazing. It was a moment in time. We were pouring Cantillon for people. People were excited about Rodenbach. They were excited about, the Cam Goose.
Wasn't that a fun time?
It was
in beer,
amazing.
though?
No,
wasn't it so great?
So it was the best time in beer. We just thought it'd be like this forever, but it's not. And the thing you have to do is you have to remember those times, great times, but you also have to evolve and realize, like, hey man, this is a generational thing that you can't. You just got to flow with it and figure out what to do next. You can't change what people are thinking. Imagine you're 22 years old right now. And when I was 22 years old, I was like, okay, I got to try Saison DuPont. You got to try Orval. You got to try Westmalle. You got to try Chimay. Okay, you got to try Allagash White. You got to try, Bell's Two Hearted. You had to it was like a game. You had to find. Now, you go to like a soccer, I go to a Charlotte FC game uptown and there's very good beer at the stadium. You know, like it's it's everywhere now, which is it's good and bad. You know, so say you're 22 years old now. Oh, craft beer, yeah, that's just what I drink. You know, but let me try this THC drink. I want to drink this cocktail.
All right,
and that's what's happening.
You know, though, I'm a decade older than you.
Okay.
You said you're about, so I'm 52. And in my time, when I was in my early drinking days, I lived in northeast Arkansas in a tiny little town, and things like Moosehead, that was Heineken, Beck's, Moosehead. Those were the fancy beers. And I remember I worked for Milwaukee Electric Tool Company at the time, and we did these group dinners. And we did these international workshops where we had our coworkers from the UK and Sweden and all that come over. And we were at a dinner at this nice steakhouse in Jackson, Mississippi. And the British guys looking at the beer list, and they said, "Oh, thank God they have Sam Adams. At least there's one good beer here."
Yeah.
And I'm sucking down my Bud Lights. Man. I'm like, "What do you guys mean?" And they talked beer with me a little bit, and I tried the Sam Adams. And so that's my origin story with craft beer was, back in my day, Brian, in my neck of the woods, we didn't have anything like that.
So I actually have a little bit more of an insight on the younger generation. I'm not the youngest one at the table. We're roughly the same generation, but I was in Portland, Oregon. So when I started drinking, like the Black Beet Porter was what we had with pizza or Mirror Pond or a variety of other things that were available around there. So we drank. If we went to a place that brewed their own beer, we had the house beer. So that wasn't a new thing to us, but I realized there's a whole world of beer beyond what the place you're at is brewing that I had to learn about. So the exports were something that I had to find later on after doing that.
Yeah, Franz and Connor and all that stuff came out.
It was fun, man.
And in our generation, roughly between all of us, is when the whole gamification of everything happened. So Untapped kind of happened. Maybe a little bit after maybe at my 20s, but I bought into it. I was young enough to be into that. They gamified, drinking beer. They gamified working out. Everything got turned into a game.
Everything.
And so now that's old hat, and I don't know if the current generations are into that Untapped. Like let's check everything off and get our badges.
I think the only positive of beer changing and people going back, one, it's going back to the essence of beer with a lot of breweries making lagers. And if you make a good lager, you can brew beer. There's nothing you can hide off. Anybody can make a base and throw marshmallows in it and fruit, and you can cover a lot of things up. And we do those beers too. I get it, but if you can make a really good lager consistently, you're a talented brewer. And you can put out a good product. That's the positive. The other positive is people going away from the hype, Untapped stuff, and cause it's kind of exhausting, man. Sometimes because all the breweries start chasing that. We got to make this to get a Untapped score up, and because it affected your business, and I feel now it's kind of that's the only positive is I see people just drinking lager and going back to the essence,
I started predicting lager was the next big thing in 2016, and Jason, I knew if I kept saying it year over year,
someday you'll be right.
What's funny? I noticed one thing too, because I know having a retail store and a brewery is huge for me. So I have so many regulars I've been coming in over the years, and the guy who all the brewers 4 or 5 years ago, brewers were drinking High Life and Modelo. And if you told the hardcore beer nerd that, they're like, "What are you talking about?" Trust me, dude. We're all drinking High Life and Modelo at these fests because we're, it's a hard industry. You're drinking a lot. You got to kind of watch what you're drinking. But some people come in and they wanted the big kettle sours, and now all those people come in for what new Halfway Crooks you got? What's your new lager at Sleet? What new Schilling do you got? What new? So that's the new thing. So downstairs, and maybe when we get the Taplist, I can go more into this. Upstairs is our beer. Downstairs is the beer shop's Taplist. We have one beer that we do not change downstairs, and that's Rothaus Pils from Germany.
Okay.
We go through, and we're a little, downstairs is 1,000 square feet. It's not big. There's a tiny patio. We go through 4 to 5 50 liters a week of Rothaus.
Wow.
It's a great beer.
It's amazing. And we serve the glassware with it and all that. And it's become our house beer.
Well, let me ask you this. Talk about the changes in that. I don't think about it much because, to be honest, I just didn't enjoy whatever wave of craft beer we're in. I'm loving the Pilsners, the various lagers we see right now. But every now and then I think about when Saison and the Wild Ales and all that were much cooler. And I do kind of miss Brett beers. Everybody did.
Yes.
There was Brett IPAs, there was Brett Saisons and all that. and I still love those. You just don't see them as much anymore. What was the one from Boulevard? What was their Brett?
Saison Brett.
Yeah,
Saison Brett, right?
Yeah.
And then Westbrook had a Brett, no Mices. We did a bunch of Brett beers. I loved it. We did like a ship. We had a beer called Like a Ship that was a Brett IPA. I do miss the Brett beers, man.
Okay. I was going to ask, what do you miss, man? What do you miss?
I miss the Brett beers. And so our tap list downstairs, I put it by style, right? We have 16 taps. We have a nitro tap. Tap 2 is always Rothaus. 3 and 4 are West Coast IPAs. 5 and 6 are hazies. 7's a seasonal, which like right now is like Ach Lent beer. You know, it's like a Roush beer. 8's a cider. 9 and 10 are 9's a wild ale, a barrel aged wild ale or lambic on tap.
Very nice.
10 and 11 are the kettle sours. 12 is like a dealer's choice, usually like ESB, a mild. Like we have the Halfway Crooks all beer on right now, that tap.
Good call,
13's
man. Good call.
we have a seltzer tap. 14 and 15 are either barley wine or stout, and 16 is a side pour. We always have a side pour from Lucre, the Czech side pour,
nice.
always. Also upstairs, we have a side pour that we have our lagers rotating on.
If you had one more tap, what would go on it?
A Paloma.
Okay. Easy enough, man.
All right.
Done and done.
Seriously, I mean,
Done and
There's a
done.
lot of overlap in my ideal tap list and yours. And the one thing I realized, like, I didn't have a dedicated spot for a good barley wine because I'd want that. Maybe that would rotate in with my barrel aged pastry style.
Yeah. So right now we have a barrel aged. Actually, we have a Weldworks stout on, and then the barley wine is a BA Fauna Flora barley wine that we have. And the nice thing is these breweries are getting really smart. So I could buy Todd's BA barley wine in a 10-liter keg. You know, so it's nice because it's a little 10-ounce pour.
Yeah.
And with a 10-liter keg, you rotate through
it
it quick,
going, right?
and you can put something new on tap. Before that, we had a bourbon cherry aged quad from Edmonds Oast. So that tap usually is a barley wine, and then the wild ale tap, because sometimes you can't find a wild ale or lambic keg, so it's a saison farmhouse. You know,
that seems
Yeah.
acceptable. I love that you have a Rothaus Pils tap that never changes.
Never changes.
Because one of mine was Halfway Crooks Ada, which is a German Pilsner.
Oh, yeah.
But I said if that's not available because those guys don't always
Yeah.
brew it, Rothaus Pils or Bitburger was acceptable.
Yeah.
And I got that. I actually have that typed out in my notes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Rothaus is an incredible beer. We get the glassware and everything. And we do get in Charlotte, we do get a little bit of Halfway Crooks. And every time it comes in, I literally buy every keg available.
Got to do it.
We get a lot of the Farina Kolsch and
Fantastic. Have you had their Berliner Weiss?
No, I'm not.
My personal opinion, it's the best Berliner Weiss that's ever been made in the history of time.
He might be right. It's really
it's
good.
Really, theirs is really
classic, no fruit, just tart.
and it's tart. And we talk about a lot how when America was introduced, at least on the East Coast, I think Westbrook Goza.
Also, Bell's Oarsman.
People. Okay, so you know what?
If you remember Bell's Oarsman, my family's from Michigan, so I go up there a lot in the summers.
Yeah.
So back in the day, Bell's Oarsman was like the classic Berliner with no fruit added. But yes, especially being in Charlotte, you know, a lot of people would go down to Charleston's like 3 hours away. A lot of people go down there for the Mexican cake releases.
Of course.
Dude, when Goza came out, it just, in cans especially.
But it was too sour. They went
too salty, probably.
And I think it calibrated the palate of a lot of people to expect that.
Yes.
For
a while.
Well, it's America, right? It's what we do.
It's
It's like we
Go big.
put 10 in everything. Because, you know, what's the original Goza? Ritter Guts? Remember the crazy Ritter Guts and the crazy long
Is it?
bottle?
So I know
well, not the
Leipziger
original,
is
but one of a classic.
One of the OGs.
Yeah,
One of the classics.
You know, I remember that because it had that weird, really long bottle.
Yeah.
If you remember that, I don't know. I'm sure they had it at like Top Gun back in the day.
I know it when you
seen
talk
It has
about
like an old hatted gentleman holding up a beer. You know, but that's the classic. You know, kind of like a Saison DuPont. But sometimes here it's like, oh, here's our Saison. That's not, 9%. You know, we're Americans, man. That's what we do. We just turn everything up to 10.
Wasn't that one Stan bought when he came to town? Like it was, I think it was, he had a particular Goza or something that he wanted to make his X number check-in. Anyway, I think it was that Goza, but I might be wrong.
Well,
it
I used to love
a very significant beer.
I used to love Jason's Saison at Orpheus.
Oh yeah,
That was always
Yeah.
when I was in town, because he would send beer to North Carolina sometimes back in the day, but not a lot. But whenever I was in town, I would always seek that one out. You know, and I love it. I love a good Saison, man. That's the one thing that you kind of forget about and miss. That style is kind of getting forgotten about.
we haven't homebrewed in a long time, but when we were homebrewers, a Saison was our flagship.
Yeah.
So we did Synesthesia Saison was our base, And we did an American farmhouse version of it. We did a peach version of it. And as homebrewers, we won half a dozen or 10 medals for it. So we were pretty happy. We dialed that one in pretty good.
We did a darker version of it for the
Noel
holiday
Noir
season.
for the holidays.
Noel Noir. Yeah. And we also did a sun-dried tomato and basil saison.
Oh, right.
Based on the same
did.
thing.
But
Yeah.
you know, to me, I think if you ask me what's one of the best beers with food saison.
Oh,
absolutely.
You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Mussels, oysters. You know, like it's always incredible. You know, it's
we do a lot of that. We've been talking about mussels and oysters. Nate, I've got a question. You can just nod to me, but I just saw someone with a Natural Light shirt on, and I'm wondering, did you bring my snackle box today? So we're very into tinned seafoods right now, Jason. And
I'm a huge fan of tinned seafood.
conservatives.
Yeah.
And,
Nice.
We sell them at Salute. Actually, we got the Scout.
Scout, good stuff.
For value, the Patagonia is the best value.
They do.
And they're not bad.
We actually we have a Patagonia store here down in Old Fourth Ward area of Atlanta. And we just happened to walk by there. We're like, let's go in and see if they have their tins. And they did. They had all their tins in there. So they had a really nice mackerel with smoked paprika.
Spicy.
Their
paprika,
mussels.
yeah.
So going back to like my family history, my mom's side of the family, they're from Lake Michigan. And my grandma's side of the family, they were from Sweden. Bergquist was their last name, and they were all fishermen in Lake Michigan. And I remember being a kid going up there eating smoked chubs every summer. You know, so I love conservatives. I love tinned fish. We sell a lot of natural wine too, so that goes great. A lot of pet net, goes perfect with tinned fish, and saison, you know, goes along with that.
Absolutely.
You know, or even classic Watto's Jolly Pumpkin Band beer would be an amazing
for sure.
beer with tinned fish. Another brewery that is, you know, I go to Ann Arbor for a Michigan football game. I'm a ridiculous, crazy Michigan football fan. So I try to go to Ann Arbor every year for a game. And, you know, the original Jolly Pumpkin Brew Pub is downtown. And it's like a pilgrimage, man, for me every year, because I remember this band beer was literally like one of my bucket list beers I would love, you know, kind of like Orval for me. And I love band beer. And
Do they still come here? Does Jolly Pumpkin still come
I
here?
haven't seen them in a while. I don't think
Yeah.
they make it down there anymore.
It's back.
With the Shelton, when Shelton collapsed,
Yeah.
man, we
got it
We
once or
lost a
twice
lot.
since then.
Yeah.
But and they can it and everything. But I heard this could be, I don't know if this is true or not, but some, you know, they can condition, and they had to almost like they couldn't stack them until they were fully conditioned because they would just collapse the cans.
Okay.
Oh,
Because,
Jesus.
you know, and I applaud them because they were like, "What are we going to do? Who's going to buy 750 milliliter bottles of, you know, wild ale? You got to can it, you know." Unfortunately, and it's like some stuff is not made for cans, you know.
Even Saison DuPont is in cans.
Oh, I know.
It
It's so
is
weird, man.
It is.
Isn't
It
it
feels
though? It's
strange.
so weird.
Yeah.
This is wrong. So
Yeah.
I get
You
it.
should
I
get
get
down
it.
for Le Bon because it's
I
all
am.
about saisons.
Yeah,
and,
I've been
and
before. I'm going
oysters.
to come this
Okay.
year. We're actually pouring a 2-year-old Fooder beer, our Fooder table beer. We're pouring now. It's 4%.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And it's got a nice sharp tartness to it. That I'm really proud of that beer, and that's like a bygone era in a way. We sold our Fooders. It was the last beer we did.
Really?
Yeah, we
Oh,
sold
wow.
the brewery down the street. I mean, it's just.
That's quite a statement selling the food.
Well, we needed room to brew. We got to brew our Del Patio, man. That's our workhorse for us. You know, we're a brew pub pretty much, so it's tough to put out like Fooder beer and have space to age a beer for 2 years when we're not really distributing. Doesn't make business sense
Good
in a way,
point.
you know.
Yeah.
That's a
I
very
mean, it
good
hurts my
point.
heart, you know what I mean? Because I love those beers, but I still, you know, we have a good amount of that beer that we bring to the fest, and we're really proud of it. And you know, but my friends, you know, Fauna Flora and other people are still making those beers that I can sell in the shop. You know, we're getting a lot more Cantillon than normal, a lot of Drury Fontaine, always Tilken, and we're getting DeGard now. You know, so like all those things that
You still got it covered, right?
you know, yeah. So if you want that, we have that. You know,
We talked a couple years ago to the folks at Primitive Beer out of Denver, and they just do they do some still beers.
in the box.
in the
Yeah,
box.
beer in
Somebody
a
brought me,
box.
Oh,
dude. Somebody
my
brought
gosh.
me one. It was
So
great.
was it the glue
I
beer?
think so. It was
That was
excellent.
really good. But I saw them. They talked about, you know, with what they do, that it just takes so much space and they don't move quite as quick. So they're still around. I know they merged with somebody else. I forget who that is right
that's
now.
right. Yeah.
So
did
they
do
still
something.
exist, but and those are the beers, man, that I really loved. And they are beers that take, you know, people talk about how long lager takes. Here's a hot take for you, Jason. I'm going to back up a little bit. I think if we put a silver lining on the pandemic, I think that it helped to increase the popularity of lagers in the craft beer
100%. Yeah,
because I think it gave people time because stuff wasn't moving. The IPAs and that didn't move as quickly, so they had time to take up that tank space and figure out their lagers.
If you ask me, I think the whole shift in the drinking culture is from the pandemic, 100%. I just think it changed everybody's like state of mind and what they drink.
People got more health conscious, and I think that the pastry stout, nobody can convince
Exactly.
themselves that that's a good thing for
also,
you to be
like,
drinking.
you're going to sit at home by yourself and crush a 4-pack of Imperial Stout? No. I mean,
Brian,
or you
he's
are.
talking to you, Brian.
Is he I mean, I may or may not still do that.
Okay, you might do that once, but, you know, you're not going to want to do that.
I can't do
regularly.
it, though. I feel
And-
every Imperial pastry stout.
And when you're at home, you can crack open a beer, right? You know what you can't do? You can't. I mean, you can. You can make yourself a cocktail and all that, but you can't sit down in the bar and have somebody make you a really nice cocktail. So nobody really did that for a year and a half. What do you want to do when everything's back open? You want to sit down and have a cocktail,
Yeah.
or you want to smoke,
true.
or now that with THC and CBD and all this Delta 9, and it's everywhere now too. It's just like, well, I can get a nice little buzz,
Get a little crossfaded.
yeah.
man.
So
Just a little
those are
crossfaded.
the things. So like you take a kettle sour, right, with a bunch of fruit and stuff, not cheap to make. There's some cans that we have to sell for like, $35 a 4-pack or $10 a single can. Well, do you want to drink one of those at 5-6%, or do you want a cocktail for $12? That's $2 more, and it'll get you more. But that's what you got.
I want to go where you're going
how
if you're
can you
getting $12 cocktails.
Well, $15. You know what I mean? But the problem is a 4%, 5% beer. It's just hard to. That's what I think we're battling against for drinkers' wallets and minds. And how do you fight that, man? It's like, I don't know. I don't have the answer for that.
We went to a very nice cocktail bar here in Atlanta a couple months ago. Love the place. It's great. I love the vibe and the cocktails. And I'm not going to call them out by name because I'm about to talk trash about them. But we each got, I think I got 2 cocktails and you got 3, if I remember.
Probably.
We had a $120 tab, Jason.
No, that's right. So
It's
About
like,
5 cocktails.
I take it back
man,
about Charlotte's.
so-
I take it back. There's not many $12 cocktails in Charlotte, dude. I take that back.
even at 15 anymore, it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
But
all right. So.
Some people want a tequila and soda even for 15 instead of because how many calories are in a tequila and soda compared to like a pastry sour or whatever, That's probably got 600 calories in a can, at least a 6-ounce can, One thing that I wish brewers would think of is they got to get away from the 16-ounce can for these type of beers. I see a lot of breweries making their lagers in 12-ounce 6-packs because that's like the classic, like, old school, Natty Light or Champagne Velvet, but like the IPAs, the hazy IPAs, the pastry stouts need to be 12-ounce cans. The lagers need to be the 16-ounce cans. We got to find a way to flip that because I don't think nobody wants.
They're
Now,
19
you
too,
want
man.
Stovepipes.
Now-
I'll
Pilsner,
I'll
man.
drink 16 ounces. I mean, these little taster pours of pastry sour. I would, yes, that's what I want. I want to taste it and have 5 ounces, 6 ounces, and because I still enjoy those beers, just not in bulk. Like
I've
that.
been lobbying for the whole industry to go to 8-ounce cans personally.
Yeah.
Like for me, that'd
For the
work.
higher
so.
gravity.
But you are
probably.
seeing stovepipes. I mean, this is crazy. We got from Prairie in the shop last week a 6-pack, right? It's like, I think it's a triple IPA at 10%. 6-pack, 19.2.
It's right back. Yeah.
That's the thing people are getting. It's the beer you get at a convenience store that you get cold because you plan to drink it within an hour, and you get that one beer because it's easier to grab that one beer than grab a whole 6-pack.
Yeah.
And you look a little less like a drunk if you hit that
No.
triple IPA 19.2 than if you drink an entire 6-pack.
Now,
of
we
an
sell them as
IPA.
singles, and we don't sell too many 19.2s because that's like a bottle shop, little like a bar. It doesn't make much. You don't make much off them. For a convenience store, it makes sense. It's like in and out, volume. For us, it doesn't make much sense. For a stadium, for a gas station, I 100% understand where that's
Brian,
going.
see, I love to try a bunch of different beers, but as I've become an elderly gentleman, I can't drink like I did even 5 years ago. So I want shorter pours so I can still try. And another thing that the old pandemic kind of hit us on was bottle shares.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Before that, it was nothing. Probably once a month or more, we got together with everybody.
We would host bottle
And do
shares
these
for a
bottle
year. I mean,
shares.
again, we opened in 2012. Every Wednesday, people would have a bottle share. But you know what's funny? All the beers that people used to share are on our shelves now because they're distributed in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
like,
See,
what are you going to
yeah.
bring that's not
Yeah.
available?
Well,
That's another good point about it. Now,
I mean, my Taplist right
it's
now.
here.
My
It's here.
Taplist right now. I think my 2 hazy IPAs right now are other half in Parish.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and we have Trillium regularly. We get Vale regularly now. We get Weldworks. We get, we get everything. I think like
the big boys are
other,
there.
other than like Russian River, Three Floyds, and Alchemist that we get.
Well, that's we used to a few years ago when the brewery would release Black Tuesday. We had a buddy out there that he would send us. He would be our gopher because you couldn't ship at the time. You had to have someone there that could be your what's the word I'm looking?
This is your
I forget,
representative.
proxy.
It's proxy.
So he would go out there. We'd buy several bottles each, and he'd get them and ship them to us. We'd ship him stuff from Georgia for that. And the last few years, I just haven't felt the need to do that as much, because I still like Black Tuesday a lot in small doses. But if I may not be able to see Black Tuesday on my shelves here, but there's several beers that are as good as and as close to that beer as
that are half the price. You don't got to pay
right,
shipping,
and you don't got to do that.
I think the pandemic killed the large format bottle because we don't do bottle shares, and bottle shares was the way we justified buying a 750 of a 20% stout. You can't open it by yourself and do anything, but you keep it for that bottle share. And that's what I loved about bottle shares. And I think I still miss, even though we can get all the stuff everywhere, you get samples of a lot of things, a lot of people. So it's like a buyer's club where everybody went out and bought these great beers that they love, and you get to try all of them. And I miss that. I still miss that. Yes, I can go to a lot of tap rooms and get a full pour of it or even a smaller pour. But I kind of miss, I want to sample. I want to have the appetizer version of all of these crazy beers that all of my fellow beer geeks have decided to amass. So, I mean, I miss that.
Well, beer's evolved also too, where there's so many breweries making amazing beer. That you don't even need beer shipped anymore because you can get it locally. I'll be
That's
honest,
true.
Atlanta, Charlotte, there's amazing breweries.
Again, we've got Halfway Crooks literally 3 feet from us right now that's making some of the best lager beers in the country right now.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Yeah. We've got Goodword, and shout out to Goodword Brewing hosting this festival.
Yes.
To Todd, our buddy there. He puts on 2 festivals a year. We have Le Bon, which does like Saisons, wild ales, and that kind of thing.
And oysters, usually.
Some natural wine, some oysters. Yeah. And then Little Beer Fest. Little Beer Fest has been quite adventurous since its birth. The first year they did it was like 100 degrees in the road, sweaty, hot. Then, actually forget year 2, but year 3, we literally had snow.
Yes.
For a little bit. And then today it's gorgeous. I mean, we're absolutely clear blue skies. It is 72 degrees right now. A little breezy, but wonderful. So this is a really good time. Absolutely. Talking about, Brian, like Black Tuesday and the bottle shares and that, I hate to say this, but it's been a long time since I've got excited for something to beer. There's stuff I enjoy. There's stuff I look forward to. But I remember being super excited to set and wait to be denied for 15 minutes on the website to order Black Tuesday until I finally got through and placed that order. I remember getting excited at the beer festivals for certain beers to show up. The first time I tried Hetty Topper, the first time I tried Pliny the Elder, and all of these. And it's been a long time since I've had that feeling. So, Jason, what is something right now that you're excited about for beer?
To be honest, I know we've been talking about this whole time. Lagers, just the Czech are my favorite style. I love it. I love all the different. People don't realize there's so many different type of Czech lagers out there, and Cohesion out in Denver. I was lucky enough to go out there and for JBF a couple years ago. Last year I can't remember times. Since COVID, somewhere I don't know.
Yeah, time is irrelevant.
They were here last year, and they had their beer here, and they had it at Brick Store, and we've been lucky enough to get it. Like, they brought some beer for a fest in North Carolina. We were lucky enough to get a keg or 2, and he does all Czech beers. It's incredible. 6 beers on tap, and just whenever I see a new Schilling, a new Halfway Crooks come in, a new Goodword, I get excited about that. When we talk about brewing, what new lagers we want to do, I mean that's what gets me excited now, to be honest, because that's what
good stuff.
That's what I like drinking. I'm at the point in my life now. It's what I like drinking. So.
I enjoy drinking them too. Well, we're going to take a little break. We've got some Underbergs here. We were just hand-delivered a box of Underberg.
Talking about Saison. So we have my man Matty.
Farm, Matty from Blackberry Farm. Yeah. He was with us last year.
So we did a collab. We did a collab called Slow Clap.
Okay.
A lagered Saison. Kind of weird because it's a hybrid lager yeast and Saison.
Yeah,
did with Matty's face on the can.
Now
I want
hate
the
that
can.
I missed
I
that.
want
I
the
want
can.
the can.
It's
Yeah.
basically the De La Soul 3 Feet High and Rising album cover, but with Maddie's face.
That's glorious.
He's fantastic.
He brought us Bloody Marys last
Yeah.
year when we sat down with him, and so
I think this is
that
part
was
of the
a good
joke.
way
He
to
brought
get
us
started.
Underberg this
Yeah.
time because a certain somebody decided to
Nate.
spike our
Nate.
Micheladas with Underberg.
Nice.
Which is not
Crazy
an
stuff.
ideal combination. I'm just going to tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, we're going to take a quick break. Jason, if people want to know more about Salud Cerveceria, what's happening, what's coming up, what's going to be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, obviously Instagram's always the best. All of our social media, Salud Cerveceria. And then downstairs is the Salud Beer Shop. We have an Instagram for each. Obviously, you can go to our website. You can kind of take all the social stuff, and you can find us. If you're ever in Charlotte, please come see us. We're in the Noda Art District neighborhood, right down the street from Divine Barrel, Wooden Robot, Noda, Birdsong, Heist, Free Range. We have 6-7 really good breweries on our street. It's
Good
a great
stuff.
little district.
I got to get a trip up there sometime.
Yeah,
Very-
please come
very
see
good.
us.
Boy, say bebe.
Oi, say baby.
All
right, that's how you
Thanks,
say it.
man.
All
Appreciate you joining
All
us.
right, yeah, thank you.
Cheers. And the fun at Little Beer Fest continues. We're having a good time here. We took a little bit of break. We refilled our glasses several times.
Several times, yes.
Several
Yeah,
times.
I hope so.
And now we are here with Todd Boera of Fonta Flora Brewing, one of my favorite breweries. Todd, how are you doing?
I'm great. And last name, you said it correctly, too. So,
I thought it. See, so
props. Yeah,
you were on the show 3-4 years ago, I think.
I think that's right.
That's we just met Todd today because there's so many people we connect with, and with the power of the internet,
Yep.
it's easy to have our conversations.
I can
without
tell you
that. Brian,
exactly.
when was it?
It was episode 152, and we're on 400 something now. I forget which.
409. We
gosh.
just launched.
December
Yeah.
24th, 2018 is when the show aired.
Was it that long ago?
So it was
Wow.
a few days prior when we actually recorded it.
Todd,
So,
we've known
yeah.
you for years.
Yeah.
man.
for
Known
years.
you
We're like
for
old
years.
friends
Yeah,
now.
Nice
Yeah.
to see y'all again.
Yeah.
Yes, good stuff. We all, before we dive into it too much with Todd, we do want to give our show sponsors a shout out. We have to thank them for supporting Beer Guys Radio. We're right here next to one of our sponsors,
Yes,
Truck and
we are.
Tap. We're right outside of the Duluth location right now. And as you know, Truck and Tap, Brian, food trucks, craft beer.
Yes.
And they have a new overproof rum bar at their Alpharetta location. And it's just, we haven't been there yet. We haven't made it yet, but it's going to be a good time. So Truck and Tap, go down there, have some adventure, check them out, and tell them the Beer Guys sent you.
And of course, we have Terrapin Brewery Atlanta. They're not next door to
They
us.
are not right
they
now.
are a little drive away, but I understand it's baseball season. And so you're going to want to go over there. You're going to want to take in the game. And you're going to take in some beers while you're there. And they've got a really convenient thing where you can, I believe you can walk right into the brewery from, watching the game and then walk back out with one of the more interesting beers that they're doing in their experimental program there. So they've got a lot of fun beers they're making that may not make the big game, the big time, but they're really, really worth checking out. They're experimenting all the time. It's a good group of guys. And of course, if you go to Terrapin Brewery Atlanta, you can get some fantastic barbecue from Fox Brothers Barbecue that is right there with them. So you get some great barbecue, you get some great beers, you can catch the game, or you can just be hanging out anytime in Truist Park, the Battery. Just having a good time, having some beers, having some barbecue, walking around. It's fun. You should definitely do it. And thank you to our sponsors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Truck and Tap and Terrapin Brewery Atlanta. We really appreciate your support. Todd, we have a question for you.
Shoot.
So this is something that we talked about. That was a beer Twitter conversation this week, and they got to talking about the perfect number of taps for a tap for your beer list, and what would be on those taps. So, what do you think the perfect number of taps for? And I will say that it was different. People said whether it was a beer bar or a brewery. So we'll start with brewery. If you're a brewery, how many taps do you need, and what should be on those taps?
I feel like my answer could be all over the place, honestly.
Sure.
I could be down with between 1 and 20. I think if, a really cool scenario would be like walking into, any sort of like cafe style, like, not even in the way that, cafes are talked about, like beer bars in like Belgium or whatever, but just like you go into like a little restaurant and say there's, maybe like a few really like great sandwiches on the menu or something. And then they're like, we make this is our house beer. This is our Pilsner or whatever it is. And if that's like a perfect beer, it seems like it would be a really incredible situation, and I would be really content, with that. And then I think the answer for like 20 would be, how good is the brewery? If it's 20 beers, but like a lot of the beers aren't very good, doesn't really matter how many beers are on tap, but then I would say more the merrier for, you go into a brewery like Good Word, since, we're here in Duluth, Todd and the team there could have, 10 or 30, and I would be glad to spend, 1 to 2 days getting through that selection.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We've mentioned Halfway Crooks a few times because they're right next to us. And Halfway Crooks, you don't go down, and they may have some bottles available as well. But we're talking 4, 5, 6 taps. And totally fine
Sure.
that's what they've got on, because you're going to love everything they've got on there.
That's right.
Now, I actually saw someone when Halfway Crooks opened up that went down there, and they complained. They said,
Really?
they don't have enough taps. I couldn't get a hazy IPA, this and that.
Yeah.
If you go to Halfway Crooks and you're looking for a hazy IPA, you're going to be disappointed. If you're looking for the Tropical Brom, a Dippa, a Tippa, whatever you want to do, but if you want to go crush some amazing lagers, then you're in the right place.
And I think that they occasionally do come out with an American IPA, sometimes a hazy version of it. So it's kind of a one-off thing, but if they make it, it's going to be really good. But you can't be guaranteed it's going to show up, because it's just one of several things that could be good. If going there and expecting lagers is safe, going there and hoping for IPAs is a bad idea. You need to go somewhere else if that's your game.
Now, Todd, we are at Little Beer Fest right now, and of course we've seen a ton of light lagers here. Ton of Pilsners, Helles lager in that. You brought something a little different, still kind of kicking with it. We've opened a can of your dry Irish stout, 4.5%.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about this beer.
So Irish Table represents sort of a series that doesn't necessarily exist anymore, but when it was just me back in the early pub days, brewing on our original system in Morganton, North Carolina, most of the beers were kept in-house, and I had a very large focus on little beers, on low ABV beers, on table beers. And so there was a whole series surrounding different place-based little beers. So, at any given time, you could have walked in and there would have been Scottish Table, Irish Table. One of the ones that still we do today is another one called Supper Table, not place-based, but lower ABV. So like Irish Table represented that, sort of like our take on a Guinness, right? So I've been making this beer, and now I'll sit on the floor. We've been making this beer since 2013. And we were less than a year old and took gold at GABF for the dry Irish stout category with this beer, and still make it to this day.
This
It's
is
good
fantastic. I really like it. Tim has bragged before we were on the air that he could pick out a Fontaflora without knowing it was a Fontaflora purely by tasting it. Would you have been able, and we've never had a Fontaflora stout, would you have been able to pick this one out?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't. I don't
Okay.
get the minerality I do in your lighter beers, the farmhouse beers. I don't think I would have said this is a fantastic dry Irish stout, but no,
It's a very good
I
one,
will
yeah.
say that I should walk back my statement earlier, because this one wouldn't jump out to me immediately as a Fontaflora beer.
Where I would agree with you personally is on all the wild and farmhouse and saison style beers. And I think if I'm being honest, even from hearing y'all say it, one of our biggest things that we've been trying to overcome over the years is to get known for anything in beer is incredible. So I'm very appreciative that we got known for wild beers, farmhouse saisons early on, but it has been an uphill battle, actually kind of trying to scoot that aside and being we make literally every style.
Because there's a shift. Those were cool, give me all the Brett beers, give me all the funky saisons and that. So, to let people know, hey guys, what, we do those, but we do other stuff as well there. So I had just last week, I had Le Petit Prince from Jester King, a farmhouse table beer. And I love those kind of beers.
Yeah.
Something I'm still a little hurt by in my soul, Brian, is when before Goodword opened, one of the ideas they had is that they would have a table beer that was essentially like the red wine and an Italian, where you just had everybody came in and they had a picture of a table beer there. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever.
So that reminds me of an experience I had in Italy. No, sorry. It was Madrid many years ago. And the whole idea of a tap list is if your drinks are good, you don't have to have a lot. I went to a place that all they served was gambas al ajillo, that's like shrimps and garlic, terracotta pots, hot, and a red wine, house wine. And they had people lined up out of the place doing it. Like, that's it. That's all of the options they had, like, because their stuff was good. Like, they didn't need a lot of selection.
And you don't really want, like, decision fatigue is a real thing.
Yes.
You don't always want to walk into a place, certainly not like 100 tap places, like, that's for the birds. Like, I mean, that's too many. Like you said, if it's good, you don't need a lot.
You made a decision by going there. Don't make any more decisions. Just ride with it. You've decided to go there. You have the thing. So I think that's an extreme example, because I don't think any place is going to want to open up and just be one dish and one beverage. Yeah. But this was a hole in the wall joint. It was open late nights, and I don't even know if it still exists there, because it's been a lot of years. And I would go back there every night I could, because I'm even a big wine drinker. I love that. I thought it was fantastic. So,
well, what you said about Todd at Goodword too is it resonates. We still make this beer, but we changed the packaging format. But we had a mixed firm table beer called Day that we still make, and we've been making for a long time. But for a while, exclusively, it was packaged only in green magnums. Wasn't available literally any other way. And it was cheap. The whole idea behind it was to legit be that you can buy this over and over again to drink this a day on the table, dinner, lunch, whatever, all the time.
All day, every day.
All day, every day.
I love that. It's like the chips and salsa in a Mexican restaurant. I want table beer. I want the table beer at I don't know what kind of restaurant it needs to be or brew pub, but I love the idea.
Keep it cranking there.
Yeah, I love the idea. I hope somebody makes it happen. I really do. Yeah.
So, Todd, have you changed the way you brew with the shifting thing, or is this stuff you've always brewed and you're just trying to bring more attention to it now?
So, have we changed the way we brew with what?
Just in response to, like we talked about, I think I discovered Fonta Flora because of your funky beers, your saisons, and all of that.
Well, the interesting thing, I always found myself in a conversation and like comparing us to like our friends over at Santa Adarius, out in California, very much known for wild beer, the same way that we are. But if you went into their tap room from the beginning, same as if you went into ours, because wild beer takes long, it's not like I wasn't, I opened up Fauna Flora from concept to like doors open in 10 months. And so there wasn't like this brewing behind the scenes for many years, stockpiling barrels of mixed firm beer. So, and the goal always with Fauna Flora was a wide variety of beers. So we opened up with, some of the first beers that I was making at Fauna Flora were all clean beers. Irish Table, right in front of us, was on the menu immediately. Hop Beard, our flagship, West Coast IPA has been on the menu, our draft list from day one. So we've always made clean beer, but now obviously for a while it was cool that we were getting that recognition for mixed firm, but as y'all pointed out, mixed firm has seen, that style has changed. Not a lot of that's at least the same level of interest. I think that we find the interest is still there. We have to get a little bit more creative with how we go about selling it and approaching it. We used to have lines wrapped around our block to get our what we call Appalachian Wild Ale. Now that doesn't exist anymore, but people are still very interested and curious about those beer styles and what goes into making it. But to go back to your question, we've always made clean beer, and certainly now that our brewery is a lot larger, clean beer is what you would imagine, and with the downturn of mixed firm is clearly what we do the most of.
How do you sell a younger, newer drinker in this market today on the idea of a mixed firm? Like I know it takes more effort than it used to because there's not immediate automatic excitement about it. I'm curious what that takes.
It honestly takes a lot, and that's what we try to. It's a constant conversation with our front of house staff and our taproom managers, because for us, our entire brand is centered around storytelling. If we're not telling the story, why? Especially like our beer does cost a little bit more money, but all of our beer is local. You can look on any of our cans and bottles and see the local percentage that goes into the beer. So it's up to us for storytelling, and then it's up to, we hope that the customer is interested in the story. Luckily, a lot of people now are looking for a little bit more out of the products that they're choosing to, vote with and to spend money on. So that's an uphill battle, especially, it's like we all are craft beer is so much camaraderie, but like you can't tell me that kettle sours had a negative effect on mixed fermentation, mixed culture beer, because it just straight up did. But it's not a bad thing. Quick sours the flavor profile can be really great, and it serves a purpose. People often want to come in and, do you have a sour on tap? They're looking for a flavor profile, not necessarily a process. But it's the people who want to dig a little bit more, who really get stoked about the process. Those are the people that we're still able and want to continue connecting with. But it is a harder sell. You can get, likely a pint of a kettle sour for less money than we're charging for, a year and a half long, Appalachian wild ale with whole fruit, barrel fermentation, time, opposed to Oregon fruit, stainless steel, 2 weeks.
Yeah, a little quicker, a little easier to move that, to move it there. Now, when we talk, Todd, I believe you had some pretty interesting methods for your brewing. You grew some of your ingredients, correct?
That's right.
I think you did some foraging as well.
That's right.
Am I correct there? Still foraging and farming over there?
Still farming, still in the woods.
All right.
Yeah. Represents a big part of what we do. We're on a 15-acre farm is our production facility, and we're growing. We have an annual garden. We have 65 pawpaw trees in the ground. So we're just constantly trying to, just the idea of brewing with a sense of place and agricultural purpose is what our entire reason for doing what we do is really all about.
I think beer is going to make the pawpaw popular again.
I agree.
I don't hear about it much, but I know several breweries that have done that. And didn't IDC, wasn't it pawpaw trees that they planted in their little orchard?
It might have been.
IDC Independent Distilling here in Decatur,
cool.
Georgia. But yes, I hear about
Sign
more
me
about
up for
pawpaws.
that. That sounds great.
All righty.
I was going to ask, what can you find or grow? Like, I guess it's a mix of each, but what can you forage or grow that you can't get on the market that you can put into beer that makes that beer special and from that area? Because every place has their own special things that grow only there, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's what gets us and keeps us really excited about beer. I remember just this past summer, our production manager was kind of new at the time. He had started around in April, and his old, beer head, just like us, he had been in the brewing scene for a little while, and we were out foraging kudzu flowers together. And we, looked at each other and we were like, what keeps you excited and inspired and motivated? And it was stuff like that. It's being out using ingredients that don't really make sense to a lot of people. Kudzu is a thing that everybody, especially in the Southeast, knows very well, especially, in the summertime where it just looks like big dinosaurs, are created everywhere.
Yeah.
But, almost the entire plant is edible. Almost the entire plant is medicinal. In Japan, it has been used for centuries medicinally. And so we can look at it and be pissed at the government for introducing it to the American South for erosion control, and we all should be. But then we could also, think of cool ways to be making, use of it as well.
What does the flower taste like? I didn't realize it was medicinal or edible, but I'm especially interested in the flower as an ingredient.
This summer, get yourself some kudzu, go up and get cozy with it. The flowers are beautiful, bright purple, like really, really longish flowers.
Really?
They smell exactly like grape, like Big League Chew.
Grape Big League Chew.
Grape soda,
Okay.
Grape Big League Chew.
I'm
I think
even
Todd's
more
messing
intrigued.
with us in our ignorance.
Are we
there.
getting
Yeah.
punked? We might be getting
Not-
punked.
He's
Punked
like,
by
I
Todd
swear,
Aware.
Big League
That
Chew,
would be
so-
something that I would do.
Yeah,
but that is actually true.
If I'm going to be
Yeah.
punked, I hope it's by you. I
Yeah.
really do.
Not
I don't-
Ashton Kutcher. You want it to be by
Yes,
me.
I hope it's Todd
Perfect.
Boer that
Yeah.
punks
I don't
me.
think I've ever seen kudzu flowering. I always see it when it's just a blanket of green. Or maybe I've
Same,
seen
yeah.
it, just not realized. Like when I see the green, I'm like, that's kudzu.
Yeah.
But if I saw a blanket of Big League Chew flowers
That's
out
right.
there, I wouldn't think
And
kudzu.
it'll usually be hiding underneath all the foliage. The flowers
Okay.
will be.
Yeah.
But look for it around, I would say, like beginning of August. You
Okay.
should start seeing flowers.
I don't know if this is true or kind of more of an urban legend thing, but I heard kudzu was introduced and took over. And so they introduced more rabbits in the area, hoping they would eat the kudzu, but they ended up just making nests in the kudzu, like it made a great. So then they had too much kudzu and too many rabbits.
That
So
sounds
it's
right.
like- yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's like we didn't start eating rabbits, so I don't know what we're doing here. But yeah, kudzu is absolutely taking over. I'm gonna have to look into this. I need to know more about
the kudzu flowers.
yeah,
so.
what you can do with kudzu. Like you can apparently brew with it.
So I watch a lot of cooking shows, and
Yeah.
they're always discovering new things. I always discover new stuff on there. Like I didn't know sumac was a spice,
Yep.
and that's really popular in nerd cooking right now. There's a lot of folks using sumac.
Like za'atar, like sumac
Yeah.
is often
Yeah.
a primary component of za'atar spice blend, and yeah.
So I'd always heard sumac with the prefix poison. Like you always hear
Correct.
poison sumac.
That's
so,
right.
yeah.
So when they're like, hey, yeah, get your clove and garlic and sumac, I'm like, wait a minute, let me back this up and make sure. But I'm always discovering new things with that and just the application of how would this go in a beer? What would work here? These spices, these herbs, these different things that would
Yeah.
work there. When Brian and I homebrewed a lot, I was watching a cooking show, I think with David Chang, Mamafuku, the guy that
oh yeah,
and
yeah, that guy. All right.
he mentioned that when making ice cream, he uses freeze-dried fruit because it produces the most accurate fruit flavor. And he was talking specifically about strawberry because I'm sure you know, Todd, strawberry's hard to get that strawberry flavor in a beer. Usually eats all the sugar and you taste like green strawberries
Yep.
there. So he used the freeze-dried.
That's where
so
that came from. 'Cause
that's where
we
that
did
came
all
from.
we did
Yeah.
when we did fruit additions to
We
our
used
homebrews.
freeze-dried.
It was always
Yeah.
freeze dried, and the
And
fruit
did it not
popped.
give you just a very true off the vine kind of fruit
It
flavor?
totally did.
So all of that, Todd, that I say to lead up to, are there any ingredients that are new to you or exciting or something you want to see used more or you'd like to see people experiment with more?
Well, I guess I'm going to touch on the strawberry real quick because it's interesting. For years, we have a beer called Rhythm Rug. It's an Appalachian wild ale with strawberries. For years, people would come up, brewers included, and be like, "What are you doing? How are you getting this expression of strawberry in the finished product?" And I, for a while, kind of had especially early on, had like imposter syndrome. I was like, damn, I should have more of an answer to this. But then like a few years later, it just sort of dawned on me that it was like there really is no answer. And to be honest, with cooking, with brewing, the answer is quality ingredients. And I would flip what y'all said on its head and be like, there's no alternative for fresh and local. And that is the reason why Rhythm Rug has always been a really awesome strawberry wild beer, and the other fruit beers that we make and other obviously ingredient driven beers. We do not brew a beer with an ingredient unless it is in season, and it just quite honestly makes better beer for it.
Todd, I want to say thank you because that is the nicest anyone has ever said. You're wrong, and here's why.
He flipped the table on us in the nicest way possible.
But now that said, Todd also admitted that a lot of brewers come up to him asking how he does that, and it's definitely something that a lot of brewers do struggle with.
Absolutely.
So here's the thing. I'll bet as somebody who has eaten tiny wild strawberries on the side of a trail in like the obscurest places of northeastern Oregon, and they were some of the best strawberries I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And if you put them in anything, I have no doubt they would be the most amazing anything strawberry you ever had. And I've had from Publix, Kroger, or whatever your chain is, Safeway or Albertsons or whatever exists where you're listening. Some of those are the blandest and boringest and saddest strawberries I've ever had. They're large and they're vaguely red and they aren't good. So You make a good point. If you get really good ingredients, you don't need to do special things like freeze dry them. But if you're like me and you get horrible local ingredients, you need to get the freeze dried stuff to concentrate those flavors. Yeah. So I agree with you and also disagree with you at the same time.
Well, Brian, we're buying. You bring up a good point. We're buying at the grocery store.
Yes.
Yeah. The grocery store is getting their produce in a totally different way. And I grew a small home garden one time with tomatoes, okra, and sugar snap peas. The sugar snap peas were almost sweet enough. They were almost like candy.
Yeah.
When you're picking them off the vine in your backyard, having homegrown tomatoes is totally different than even the best tomatoes you'll get at Publix or Walmart even. So,
or I mean, buying tomatoes in January,
right?
I straight up just don't do it. Teach their own, but like it's not even an experience that once you've had a local tomato, there's no going back.
And that's it. I think farmers markets sometimes get looked at as, it's a hipster thing, a housewife thing or whatever, but you're going to get better stuff there. You're going to get, if you're getting stuff that was picked on the farm 10 miles from you the morning of or the day before, it's going to be better than that stuff that is on your shelf at Publix that came in from a truck from California or Bolivia or even Florida. It's just going to be better. So great point, Todd, because I think a lot of folks there's a lot of the fruits in that brewers may get are coming from the bulk providers bringing them stuff.
Yeah.
So Interesting.
Very interesting. So I know when you're at an event like this, you have to be looking around and seeing what everybody else has brought to the show. What have you had that you really liked? Any thoughts? Have you had any favorites?
I haven't, to be honest, had the chance to walk around too terribly much at this point. I did have a really nice German Kolsch from Chuck and Knot. I had, what else have I had? The Timothy Taylor sort of clone thing that Creature did that's on cask was really wonderful. So I've still got a little bit of walking around to do, but a lot of really incredible, so many friends here and really talented brewers. And this is actually my first time coming down for this event, and I'm really stoked to be here.
They say this is the brewers event. Like, this is the event that brewers want to come down to, and every year I think we've seen more and more brewers showing up.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that about this event, in addition to the beers being good.
For sure.
So Todd, a question for you, man. We have seen the demise of several beer fests lately. Some big ones have died in Portland and Denver, and even here in Atlanta we've seen some that just aren't happening anymore. This is growing a little bit each year.
Yeah. More
good breweries here, more people come here, and it's well attended. What makes a good beer fest today? What makes this one special?
Oh boy. Yeah, what a question. Because we hosted a beer festival for years in downtown Morganton called State of Origin, that the whole premise was local ingredients. And we did it for 9 years, and then kind of finally called it quits just because it kept on getting harder and harder. So this is actually really, especially in I know it's still like Atlanta-ish or whatever, but a suburb, of Atlanta, a smaller community to see this level of support is really inspiring. And I think it's a testament to what Good Word is doing in Duluth and the community that they've created here. And I do think that, getting the point across that these are all the beers are going to be lower ABV, approachable. I think that is key. I think beer festivals that have that is a good theme. But if you're doing events like all sour or all IPA or whatever it is, will become limiting. And whereas these days in craft beer, which I'm sure is a recurring theme, everything needs to be very open, opening as many doors to, new drinkers or, what have you. Good, thank you. So, I think, and that's what it seems like this festival is doing a good job at.
It's an inclusive festival.
Yeah.
You do not have to be a drinking pro to
Yeah.
hang out here and have a good time.
Yeah.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. I'm like, this is not a scary festival. This isn't a insanely dark, heavy beer festival that people worry about what they're going to feel like the next day. This is a festival that can come out, they can have every beer that they want and probably feel pretty good the next day. Maybe not 100%, but maybe 95% good,
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than a couple people who really dedicate themselves to getting schnockered, most people are going to go away from this feeling okay.
Yep.
So even with a low alcohol beer fest, you got a couple that are going to go too far with it. It's just going to happen, man. But for the most part, like you said, Todd, you can go try everybody almost, or try several. It's not like going to Strong Beer Fest, Brian, where Brian and I made it a habit, which terrible habit to have, but we would go to Strong Beer Fest, and when the beer fest wrapped up, we went to the bar at the brewery and drank whatever great whiskeys they had on.
Oh, yeah.
Because they had really good
Yeah.
whiskeys.
Oh, boy.
They still do.
Yeah. There. So
It's
That
a really
does sound like a
smart
very
idea.
good time, but yeah.
it was a good time.
You'll hurt the next
Dangerous.
day.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't
Absolutely.
do anything the next day except recover. So
Well, Todd, I appreciate you joining us, man. It's been great chatting with you. If folks want to know what's happening with Fonta Flora, what's the best way for them to find that out?
Check us out on the normal social media platforms. We've got all those things. Just launched a YouTube channel, trying to get a little bit more informational about all the things that we're doing, ingredient, driven wise, and, our website, of course. And come check us out in person. No better way to see what we have going on, to check out, any of our locations. We've got one in Charlotte, our home base in Morganton, and then our farm location in Nebo.
When we getting one in Atlanta, Todd?
Gosh, good question. Yeah.
One day.
Maybe stay
One
tuned.
day. All right,
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Oh.
Awesome.
that sounds
Thanks.
good. Like,
We'll
stay
leave that
tuned.
where it
I'm
is,
like,
right.
No, we don't have any Atlanta
Oh,
plans.
That's it. He's like,
But,
stay tuned.
Atlanta does sound
You're not
awesome.
going to hear
though.
anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again,
Yeah.
Todd. Appreciate it,
Thank
man.
you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, this has been Beer Guys Radio live from Little Beer Fest in Duluth, Georgia. We want to thank Good Word Brewing, thank our buddy Todd for inviting us out to this amazing festival. It gets better every year. We appreciate you joining in. We hope you have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.